Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and it's Mandalorian time. Season 2 has just premiered like an hour and a half ago. I finally got my crap together enough to set this up. Yes, it's Friday. It's 1:30 in the morning on Friday, but it's Friday nonetheless. So yeah, just to start you off right now, this is going to be full of spoilers. So if you have not watched The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 1 yet, you should not watch this at all, because there's lots of surprises throughout this episode. So many surprises throughout this episode. Some that you may have expected, some that are just sort of set dressing, some that are just nods to other things. But if you're a fan, obviously I can't imagine why you'd be watching my video before watching The Mandalorian, but and this is not so much going to be a review as whether it's good or bad. I'm a Star Wars guy, so it takes a lot to disappoint me, I think. So you got to take it as this me just geeking out over the experience. And so yeah, let's be prepared. I'm going to talk a lot of spoilers, talk about what some of the stuff that we saw means, and clue you in on a few little Easter eggs here and there. But, so, that's that out of the way. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. Stop watching if you do not want to have anything spoiled. All right. I know there's some people who don't really like this whole small galaxy theory where everybody's connected, everything's connected, where it seems that, okay, well, we got to go back to Tatooine again. Why don't we explore other planets? Well, yeah, I can get that. I want to see other planets too. But there's, they go back to Tatooine in this episode. Yeah, even he's a little surprised. He's like, I just left there. And he's like, do I need to go back there? But apparently it's really important, especially for this season, when it comes to a man looking for the people for the child, and to get there, he has to find other Mandalorians. Well, when he gets to Tatooine, he doesn't exactly find what he's expecting. And we do find something we've been hoping for, sort of. By the way, just so you're aware, the child in this episode is pretty much set dressing. He just gives reactions. And by the way, do we know that it's a he? Did we check under the little cloak or anything that we know for sure that the child is a he? Because who knows? Maybe their species doesn't necessarily have gender. I know we have Yoda and Yaddle, but still, Yaddle was technically the female creature from Yoda's species that we saw in the prequels. She was on the. We assumed it was a she on the Jedi Council. So yeah, anyway. So if you're expecting a whole lot of big developments with the child, no. There's no big developments with the child. The show is called The Mandalorian, not the child. And this one is very much about the Mandalorian plus one. I'm going to keep teasing you like this for a little while longer. One of the little things I wanted to point out early in the episode to sort of get us back into the action again, we find the Mandalorian and the child on a planet where he's hunting down a source that will give him information as to where more Mandalorians are. He goes into a shady den where there's Gamorreans fighting the electro axe battle kind of thing. And there's a one-eyed gangster type guy sort of, overseeing it. He's just sort of sitting ringside, and Mando has a meeting with him. Well, that one-eyed guy, if you recognize the voice, you won't recognize the face. It's John Leguizamo. John Leguizamo. It's John Leguizamo, people. John Leguizamo. I want to put. There's more vowels than in his name, and I want to say all of them because as Americans, we say all the letters, sort of. Yeah, so that's John Leguizamo in that scene. So it's kind of neat. Everybody gets a little guest appearance. I'm hoping to have my guest appearance in season 3, or 4, or 27. I Yeah, so, yeah, he sends him on his way. After a little bit of a disagreement, he sends him on his way to Tatooine. Who else? Where do we stop? We stop in to see Pelimato, and Peli is played by Amy Sedaris again, and she's got her pit droids fixing up the Razor Crest while she sends Mando out to this town that he's been told about is overseen. Well, he says he's been told there's a Mandalorian living in this small town that sort of doesn't exist anymore. Especially after the Empire was defeated, everything just sort of went away. This, by the way, reminder: this is about 5 years after the fall of the Empire. At least 5 years after the end of Return of the Jedi. Let's just say that, because the Empire doesn't all fall at once, and the Aftermath books explain that. The Battlefront 2 game explains that. So all that stuff ties in together. So if you're an Uber nerd, you already know all this stuff, but you non-Uber nerds, yeah, everything's connected. And we find that a lot of things are connected more than we thought. So when he gets to this town, who do we find? Well, we find an almost barren town full of really nervous strangers. He goes to the bar, and because where else are you going to go to find information? And he asks for a Mandalorian, and they point him to the guy in the doorway in the silhouette. He's like, "You're talking about the Marshal." The Marshal. That's the name of the episode, by the way. The Marshal. And who better can we think of to play the Marshal than the man who played Raylan Jennings on Justified, Timothy Olyphant? But it's not just Timothy Olyphant. Timothy Olyphant is wearing Boba Fett's armor. Goosebumps. Yes. So the Marshal, Timothy Olyphant, is sort of wearing Boba Fett's armor. I don't know if it really fits him all that well, but he's got the helmet. And if you say, well, maybe it's another Mandalorian armor. No. Again, the Uber nerds will take a half second to look at that helmet, to look at the insignia on the breastplate and the shoulder plates, and go, yeah, nobody else's armor is like that. That's Boba Fett's. The dent in the top, come on, it's Boba Fett's armor. So nobody says Boba Fett, and Mando doesn't go, oh, hey, that's Boba Fett's armor. Nobody says that, but we know it is. Mando's like, I'm taking that with me, because you're not a Mandalorian, you're just wearing it, and I'm going to kill you if you don't give it to me. Well, Timothy Olyphant, forgot to tell you what his name was. His name is Cobb Vanth. And for, again, Uber nerds who read and watch everything, Cobb Vanth is a name that should be familiar, especially to some people who've read the Aftermath books. His story remains somewhat intact, it's similar to what was in the book. Let's just say that. And written by Chuck Wendig, by the way. Shout out to Chuck Wendig. He was figuring to be a very minor character, just sort of an offshoot little story in the Aftermath novels. But guess what? He's here, and he's played by Timothy Olyphant. Not Raylan Jennings. What am I saying? Raylan. He's just Raylan. I'm saying Waylon Jennings, but it's Raylan. His character's name is Raylan on Justified. What a dork. And I can't edit this, because notoriously, I don't edit these things. And you can tell by the quality if you're new to this. So, Raylan. What's his last name? Doesn't matter. If you watch Justified, you know who I'm talking about. Anyway, so the Marshal, Cobb Vanth, by the way, so he decides to make a deal with the Mandalorian when they both witness something truly terrifying that comes plowing through the town, like an ancient sea leviathan living under the sand, just plowing down their main street, which isn't very much of a street, it's just sand, the Krayt Dragon arrives. Now, what's a Krayt Dragon, you say? A Krayt Dragon? Well, it's an enormous creature that we've actually seen before. You may not know it, but the nerds know what I'm talking about. Geeks. In the very first Star Wars movie from 1977, when R2 and 3PO first land on Tatooine, they go their separate ways. And 3PO's trundling about the desert, and in the background you see this giant skeleton over his shoulder, just laying in the sand, and you're like, that's a big creature. What is that? Well, it was given a name through the expanded universe and everything else, because we name everything, catalog everything, even if it doesn't. Every single person is probably going to get an action figure who appeared in this episode, and they're all going to have names and backstories. But the Krayt Dragon is a legendary creature, an enormous thing, and we never thought we'd get a story about the Krayt Dragon until now. The Krayt Dragon has been terrorizing this little town forever, and also the Tusken Raiders don't like him. And but he's massive, he's enormous. Nobody alone could take this thing on, not even the Mandalorian. So Mandalorian and Cobb Vanth join forces with the townspeople and the Tusken Raiders, who don't like each other very much. They've killed each other in the past, let's just say that. They've raided. They're Tusken Raiders. The Raiders do this kind of thing. They raid towns for supplies. Well, there's a really tough alliance made between the two groups, and they decide to take on the Krayt Dragon. So I'm not going to tell you anything more beyond that, because I've told you most of the episode already, and you kind of can figure out that how it's going to go for the most part. It's all a matter of how they do it and who survives. So let me see if I can. Oh, another little tidbit about Cobb Vanth. When he grabs his speeder bike to ride along with the Mandalorian, is it me, or does it look an awful lot like he strapped a seat onto one of Anakin's old pod racer engines? I mean, realize that Anakin's pod racer engine is probably one of a series of pod racer engines that were created, and he just customized it. But that first shot, it has those blue yellow fins that stick out in the front. It's a pod racer engine. Whether it was Anakin's or not, no idea. But yeah, it looks awfully a lot like it. Later on in the shots, it looked more red-bodied with the yellow fin, but at first it looked to me like a blue with yellow. I don't know, but another little nod. Plus, we get to see a whole lot more of the Tusken Raiders, stuff that we've seen in expanded universe books and comics and things like that, but nothing in the proper canon has really delved more into the culture of the Tuskens so far than the Mandalorian, except for being slaughtered by Anakin in Attack of the Clones. So yeah, it's we get to see more Tuskens, which is kind of great. We get to see what their culture's like, how they communicate, how they talk. We saw a little bit of them in the first season, but this one we really go a bit more deep with them, and it's kind of neat. I'm excited. I like it. And they also have their creepy dogs. They're like sort of leathery, spiny-looking creepy dogs. Turns out they're just adorable, hungry pups. Yeah, I won't say anything. But yeah, they're creepy as anything. But once you get to know them, they're slightly less creepy. But we saw them for the first time in Attack of the Clones back in 2002. Holy cow. It's 18 years later we get to see these things again. It featured even more so than just like in the background when Anakin starts slaughtering people. So yeah, that's kind of neat. I like that. Let's see what else we got here. I took so many notes. We got the pit droids, of course. That's old school prequel trilogy. Yeah, I don't know if I can really tell you much more. One of the things about the Boba Fett armor, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier. It's been 14 minutes. Cobb Vanth tells a story, and it's in flashback. And we kind of get to see how he pretty much we get to see how he acquired the Boba Fett armor. The book, I think, has a slightly different take on it, and yeah, we'll see if which one turns out to be true. I have a feeling this is not the last time we'll see him. Yes, he survives. You're not going to kill off Timothy Oliphant right off the bat. So, yeah, not with that pretty face of his. Come on. And he's got great hair, again. Still bugged over that. I can't remember his last name from Justified. Anyway, I don't need to say anything else. You don't need to stay till after the credits. Although I did see somebody in the credits named Keeper of the Holocron. Probably it's in all the credits like that. But in any case, the very last shot before the series of art pieces get thrown into the credits, the very last shot is super, super important. Tamura Morrison. Last time we saw him, he was playing Jango Fett. And every single clone you can imagine in the prequels. He is carrying a gaffy stick and some other guns that the Tuskens used. So, wonder what he's doing on Tatooine. Maybe looking for some armor? Don't know. But I'm excited. I can't do this every week, unfortunately. I could, but I'm not gonna. So yeah, grab this, watch this show as soon as you can every time it airs. I think it hits at midnight Pacific time each week on Friday morning, 3 o'clock Eastern time in the United States. And yeah, it's some crazy stuff. All right. Let's see. We're going to pick tomorrow's episode. And
152.
Oh, sorry. It's 152. Sorry. Just as she said. 152. And that is... Hold on. Okay. Oh, okay. Here we go. It is... 152 is Drain the Bermuda Triangle. That looks like it's a Nat Geo documentary. I think there's a ton of Drain the things, and we have seen one before. This one is this is the first time I think we've seen one that's specific to a certain area. But yeah, Drain the Bermuda Triangle. It's probably a one episode kind of thing. We'll watch it, and I'll see you back here tomorrow on the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. Thanks. See ya. Bye.